welcome to Professor and the Puppet, Episode 2. My name is Sean, and I will be interviewing today Professor Philip Sewell, who is a professor at WashU, Washington University in St. Louis, and he's a professor for film and media research specializations. He include television studies, contemporary media culture, as well as masculinities. So a bit about Professor Sewell. He graduated with a PhD from University of Wisconsin-Madison, teaches media history, theory, and criticism, obviously, at WashU in St. Louis. We are very grateful to have you here. My name is Sean, and it's very nice to meet you, Professor Sewell.
Nice to meet you too, Sean.
So, Professor Sewell, the first question I was actually wondering was, I saw that you have a W in your name. What does it stand for? Like William, Walter, Wesley? Tell me.
Winston, actually.
Winston. I recall that you had a cat.
Yes.
I remember researching your autobiography, and you talked about your cat. And remind me of your cat's name.
My cat's name is Farnsworth. He's named after one of the major inventors of television.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, do you feel that your cat resembles Farnsworth in some sort of way?
He's precocious, certainly that, but mostly he's named after my specialty, my field of interest, which is television.
That's great. You're merging two great interests, your television as well as your hobby of cats.
Yes.
What did you want to do when you were a kid?
There was a time that I wanted to be a fireman, but actually I became very interested in movies after Star Wars, and for a while I wanted to make movies, and then I wanted to study movies, and then I kind of migrated into television, which is where my research interests are now. But yeah, for a long time, what I wanted to do was be the next George Lucas or Steven Spielberg.
Well, I was also wondering, how did you end up at Washington University in St. Louis? Is this their first job as a professor here, or did you teach anywhere else?
Well, I taught at the University of Wisconsin when I was a graduate student. But yes, this is my one and only post-PhD job.
Wow, well, congratulations, and we're very grateful to have you. I hear you're an excellent professor here. I was actually wondering what one of your favorite TV shows is currently.
You know, I did like Breaking Bad, which is, of course, no longer on, but...
I loved it too. Well, I would like to know, how would you describe yourself in 3 words, Professor Sewell?
Curious, persistent, and I'm going to go with 4 words. I'd also say I'm fun-loving.
Oh, well,
So.
I consider that 1 word. That's a good way to describe it. So, let's play a word association game.
Okay.
So I'm going to say a word. You know, I played this with my new colleagues, and it's very fun. I'll say a word, and then you say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So, college,
Teacher,
The Hunger Games,
catching fire,
Netflix.
addiction,
True that. What about Snapchat?
terra incognita.
Well, what the heck does that mean?
It means that Snapchat is a little too cutting edge for me. I've heard of it, but I have not used Snapchat.
Well, all my friends complain because I always make the same face, you know, when I do Snapchat. What can I do? I'm a What's the most ridiculous or embarrassing thing to have happened while you were lecturing, would you say?
When I was teaching a class a year or so ago, I was explaining the story. There's a scholarly book that uses a metaphor based on the story of the Velveteen Rabbit. Do you know this story?
I do not.
Well, the Velveteen Rabbit is a sort of cherished children's book, and it's got a sort of melancholy, sad aspect to it. And I had to tell the story to the students in order to explain the metaphor. And it's a sweet and beautiful story, but it's also a story to some degree about loss. And as I was telling the story, I found myself overcome and got a little choked up while telling the story. And yeah, I didn't really, not too manly to cry, right? But I got a little dusty in there.
You're all right. Did Did anyone talk to you about this story afterwards because they saw that you got choked up about it? Did you inspire anyone?
Well, I admitted to it. You know,
Oh, okay.
they knew. It was a good, it was a sweet group of kids too. They weren't gonna, you know, mock me or make fun of me. And
Oh, that's Professor Sewell. He cries every time he teaches.
cries at the drop of a hat. Yeah.
Well, I'm also wondering now a little more about the St. Louis area and your relation to it. Any favorite St. Louis tourist attraction that you've been to?
The zoo's great, although I'm ambivalent about zoos. I like to see the animals, but I don't necessarily like cages. So there's that.
Just that the animals are in the cage?
Yes, that the animal. Although on the other hand, you know, when I go to see the lions, I'm pretty happy they're in cages.
I would say so.
Yes.
I'm happy when any animal's there because they would all attack me.
Yeah, well, you kind of look like a chew toy. No offense, but
Oh, like a dog is
yes.
something that would. Yes, that's why I run away.
Yes.
Bye bye. So, but I understand, you know, strong men like you. You might want to pet the animals.
Yes, that's right. Give the lion a bear hug, as it
Exactly.
were.
If you could learn one random skill, what would it be?
Welding. I would like to learn to weld.
Okay. Why?
Because one of my hobbies is I work on old cars. I have a number of cars. Well, I have one car that belongs to my wife. That's the car that we just drive around. But then I have.
What kind of car is it?
It's her car is a Volvo, but my old car is an old Mustang. And
Vroom, vroom, huh?
vroom, vroom, exactly. And but occasionally it would be very helpful to know how to weld.
What about your family? Where do they live in relation to you?
Most of my family lives in Texas, Dallas, Texas.
How they end up in that big place?
How'd they end up there? Well, that's where they came from. My dad's family came from West Texas, Southwest Texas, actually, the sort of desert country out west of Fort Worth, and my mom's family lived in Dallas for most of their lives. So that's and my parents met at SMU, where they were both attending law school. So
Oh, that reminds me of a question. How did you meet your wife?
I met her in graduate school at the University of Wisconsin. We were the entering PhD class of 1998, and for communication, well, for media and cultural studies.
Ah, I see. So I'm guessing your first date was at a movie, correct?
But we actually made a movie together before we started dating.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did you call this movie?
It was a student film. It was called One of Those Days, and it was about supernatural forces that cause people to have bad days.
Oh, like snow?
No, like sort of like Gremlins, you know. Sort of, you know, that it was a comedy.
Ah, I see. Can I watch it on YouTube or something?
No, I think I've destroyed. No, I haven't destroyed all copies, but I think all of the copies that exist are on videotape in my house. So.
It's too bad. It was very nice to meet you and speak with you a little bit further about your life.
It was very nice to meet and speak with you, and thank you for having me on.
A pleasure. This concludes our episode of Professor and a Puppet. See you next time.